I got to tell you, this is one of my favorite stories, and I saw this on X the other day. I said, book this guy. I love it from 5 different directions. So I have a new obsession, which is I believe the fight of the 21st century is going to be a fight against the bureaucracy. Not just the bureaucracy in government, but bureaucracy in general. Very similar to how men, as they get older, middle-aged men, develop an intractable, seemingly irreversible beer belly, middle fat. It seems as if government, churches, charities, companies, and of course colleges develop that kind of mid-level management, job justification, paper shuffling, desk worker industry. In fact, bureaucrat literally means desk worker from its original French. Doge exists to try to get rid of the bureaucracy. What do you do here is the lethal weapon against bureaucracy. The question of what do you do here might be the most effective weapon against bloat that I have seen. Well, we have a very special guest, someone that goes to Brown University, so obviously he's very smart, and he decided to do something I love. His name is Alex Shea. I believe that's how you say it. He's Brown University class of 2027. Software engineer and a journalist. So what he decided to do, he's a sophomore at Brown University, which is incredibly liberal, as you know. He decided to email 3,800 Brown staff members with a very simple question. Describe what tasks you performed in the past week. Shea said he got about 20 responses to his email, including one of them was F off. Shea created a website called Bloat at Brown, where he listed off every employee at the school and used AI to rate their jobs in terms of legality, redundancy, and so-called BS. Shea has pointed out that at Brown still has dozens, if not hundreds, of obvious DEI jobs in direct defiance to President Trump's executive order. So why should Brown keep on getting taxpayer money? So Alex Shea is a customer. Alex Shea is allowed to ask questions. Alex Shea pays a ton of money for Brown to educate him. But when Alex Shea starts to ask the people that he employs, what do you do here, he gets reprimanded. And Alex Shea joins us now. Alex, welcome to the program. Tell us all about this hilarious yet very important project. Alex, please.
Hi, Charlie. So you got that right. About 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that, I sent this email to all of Brown's administrators, and it's essentially just a press request. That's what it is. I'm acting in my capacity as a journalist for the Brown Spectator, and I'm trying to get a read on what's going on at Brown University. What are all these people doing? And this was even before, like a few days ago, the Trump administration just announced that they're going to take away Brown's federal funding because of DEI and anti-Semitism. But this is even before that, because Brown, get this, Brown costs $93,000 a year for 1 year of college. And I know that you say college is always a scam, Charlie, but it's seeming more and more like that these days. Because where does all this money go? That's an excellent question. And it's pretty much, like you said, 3,805 non-faculty staff members. These are not professors who are teaching the classes. These are people who sit at desks and they push around papers, and nobody exactly knows what they do because they won't tell me, especially. And so I just find that all very suspect and suspicious.
No, first of all, I love this. And I want to just say as a macro point, when high IQ driven young patriots like yourself get disagreeable against power, I love it because they don't know how to deal with it. So you've created this, we're on radio right now, Alex, so we can't give the exact title, but let's just say BS job subscores. Is that fair to say? And so you score jobs for BS jobs that waste money. So basically you are the customer at Brown for $93,000 a year. You're a journalist. You're trying to figure out what the heck are we paying all this money for in Providence, Rhode Island. You are the client. Brown employs more than 4,400 employees, but fewer than 1,000 are instructors of any kind. So that means 75% of jobs at Brown are not instructors. What BS jobs have you found at Brown University?
Well, that's a great question. So at our website right now, bloat.brownspectator.com, we have about 49 people that are dedicated to DEI roles. And again, these are the people that just cost Brown $510 million from the Trump administration because they're refusing to comply with the directives about DEI. But just in general, it's like there are multiple people, Charlie, that are dedicated to ad sales for the alumni magazine. For the alumni, I didn't even know that the alumni magazine ran ads. But apparently, one person is not good enough for that. You need to have multiple people running ad sales for the alumni magazine. There's about 7 full-time people that are on the alumni magazine in general, in roles in general. But the funny thing is that I couldn't find that many articles that were written by these 7-time full-time staffers because they make freelancers and students write the actual articles. So it's just bloat like that in the alumni magazine, in all of these various offices that as a student, I wouldn't even think that we had such a thing, that these offices existed, because they don't really interact with students. They're pretty much just behind the scenes, but they're raising the cost of tuition that are making schools like Brown. Like, again, they always say that the Ivy League is supposed to be an economic ladder, that poor kids can go to the Ivy League schools and they'll turn out successful in life. But that is really being put to the test by this enormous price tag and sort of disregard for financial planning of any sort.
Alex, you have there's two components here I want to make sure we cover. First, I want to go through these 5 categories because I think it's hilarious and so astute, and then I want to talk about the disciplinarian action, and then I have a third point that I do want to make. So you have these 5 buckets, if you will, that you have distilled of trying to organize what these people do. I want you to go through them. You have flunky, you have goon, duct taper, box ticker, and taskmaster. Explain.
Right. So, Charlie, I know that you're a conservative, but these categories were actually trumped up by David Graeber, who is an anthropologist, and he's hardly conservative. He's a left anarchist. But I think this is sort of one of the issues, really, that should be apolitical, that people at both ends of the political spectrum should see, is that there are a lot of these people with sort of confusing jobs. And just to run through them, the flunkies are people like administrative assistant. There are a lot of assistants for these mid-level bureaucrats. Why all of these mid-level bureaucrats need assistants, again, is unclear. Are they really that busy? Maybe they are, but maybe. And this is what Graeber says, is that the bureaucrats are just there to make them feel more important. And that also seems like a very plausible explanation. Again, we can't know for sure unless we hear from them. And that's why we sent that email. Goons are those who sort of fight people on behalf of the university, deceive people, everybody in the communications office,
so
essentially.
I know the type. That is so. Keep going. Yes.
And in particular, the Brown spokesperson has been putting a lot of misinformation out about me in the press, because he's been saying that this site is using confidential information. He's been telling that to all the reporters, and that's not true. But we can get into that later. But your title, your job description, that's not confidential. The duct tapers are the third category. These are sort of people like think about all the IT staff that is dedicated to maintaining and upkeep of all these various data systems. Like at Brown, the Wi-Fi goes out all the time. The systems, the IT systems are not great. And so instead of just having like an end-to-end solution that is like a well-designed system, they just have a whole lot of IT staff just sitting around fixing things when it breaks, duct taping it, so to say, instead of just designing it well in the first place. The box stickers are essentially people, compliance officers, DEI officers that just go around and they just essentially check boxes to see, are you doing this? Are you doing this? You don't really add any value. They're just making sure that everybody else toes the line. And then the taskmasters are just these mid-level administrators that just boss around the lower level administrators and give them tasks. Maybe they're writing memos. Maybe they're drafting strategic action plans. How this benefits students, I don't know, but I'm sure they think that they are very, very important.
And so put it. This is one of my favorite distillations. I want all of you to think about when you send your kid to college. So at Brown, just to repeat, 4,400 employees at Brown. 1,000 of them are instructors of any kind, and that's even being generous because that includes teachers, assistants, and 1,000 is a generous number. So there are 3,400 people that are either flunkies, goons, duct tapers, box tickers, or taskmasters, for $93,000 a year. And look, this would be even more hilarious if it wasn't tragic. And by the way, Alex, you are a great example as to why they do not want the Ivy League to be based in merit, why they don't want Asians or whites to come to the Ivy League. They just want people. You ask too many questions. You're way too disagreeable for them. You're like, actually, no, what do you do here? Well, what is this? And you're kind of doing your own micro doge. 1 minute, Alex. I want to keep you after the break. But one thing I want to make sure I express. Then I want to get, after the break, we're going to talk about the disciplinarian action of this. But if anyone out there, I know someone at Harvard, this should be happening. You should start a whole movement of this. We should have one at Harvard. We should have one at Princeton. We should have one at Yale. We should have one at Stanford, where students just start mass emailing the entire faculty and saying, I go to school here and I pay $100,000 a year. What did you accomplish last week? And start organizing the entire faculty database at the school that you are going into debt for to justify why they exist. This could start a mass movement. And by the way, I'm going to also push Linda McMahon and the Trump administration to demand this info as well. What do you do here? And organize everybody in those 5 categories. So what are you doing this Easter to celebrate with your family? Our good friends at Angel Studios have an incredible movie coming out this Easter called The King of Kings, an animated story of the life of Jesus, featuring an all-star cast including Oscar Isaac, Forrest Whitaker, and more. King of Kings brings the story of Jesus to the big screen for a whole new generation. Become a premium member in the Angel Studios Guild, get 2 free tickets to see King of Kings, and join the Angel Guild as a premium member at angel.com/Kirk. Check out King of Kings in theaters this Easter. So you've done this. So let me just make sure. You email all these faculty, you ask these questions. How has the university responded to you? The university that you are paying, Alex Shea.
Right. So this has been reported pretty widely at this point, and I'm backed by FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, and they put out a blog post that pretty much outlines the entire situation. But according to what FIRE is saying, is Brown is pursuing a preliminary review against me for 4 different charges. They're saying it's emotional and psychological harm. They're saying violation of operational rules. They're saying misrepresentation. Because I said I'm a reporter for the Brown Spectator, and that's not recognized by the Student Activities Office. That must mean it's misrepresentation. And the last charge is invasion of privacy, again, for publishing people's names and job titles that Brown himself publishes on the internet. And so, again, it's not really clear how that's confidential. Now, in Rhode Island, where Brown is we have a state law even that called the Student Journalist Freedom of Expression Act, which protects student journalism, like is in my case. And I think this is really just evidence of double standards that Brown has. I don't know if your audience knows this, Charlie, but Charlie Kirk is also banned from Brown University's campus. This was because of an incident that happened a few years ago where Brown told him he couldn't film. And so Charlie Kirk came to our campus, and he wasn't filming. He was compliant with all these rules, but some other students were filming him, and those got posted online. And that was deemed to be in violation of Brown's filming policy. And so now Charlie is unfortunately banned from Brown's campus. But take this into account, what Brown has been doing with these pro-Palestinian protesters. In 2023, a group of about 30 of them were just trespassing in an administrative building. Again, what I'm doing is speech. What they're doing is trespassing. And they actually got arrested and charged with that. And then Brown just decided to drop the charges because they didn't want to inflame tensions or something like that. Then when there was the encampment, the people who were in the encampment, they struck a deal with the Brown administration that they wouldn't be that they wouldn't be held to the normal disciplinary proceedings, and that expulsion and suspension would be off the table for all of them. And again, I think this just shows that there is a clear double standard here about how people are treated. I mean, like myself and Charlie, it's just speech, it's freedom of speech. But when people get into disruptive actions and breaking actual laws, as long as they're on the left, they're pretty much protected.
Yeah, so just to be clear, if instead of asking the people that you employ what they do all day long, if you would host, I don't know, like a Students for Justice of Palestine encampment in the middle of Brown's campus, then that's perfectly fine. They would settle with you. But going around and asking bloated bureaucrats that are duct taper, box tickers, that you employ, what do you do all day long? You are subject now to a disciplinary investigation. Alex, 1 minute remaining. Would you say that Brown is a place where, I don't want to, again, scam is kind of my thing, college scam, but how would you describe Brown now after this experience to the country, to the nation? How would you categorize it?
I think it's elitist. That's the way that I would sum it up, is that they're coming after people who espouse more right-leaning, like libertarians and conservatives. They don't come after the far left, the pro-Palestine people who are breaking actual rules. And also just think about the price tag, $93,000 a year. Financial aid is not going to cut it for a lot of people. And so people just can't go to Brown. And so this is elitism, plain and simple. They're only want to be accessible to people that are on the coasts that can afford this price tag and have those trendy, progressive, elite perspective. And if you think DEI is bad, even if you just want to criticize the bloat, that's not acceptable at a place like Brown University.
Alex, you're a good man. You're going to succeed in whatever you want to do. And if you ever want to go work for the real Doge, I'll be happy to write you a letter recommendation. We need super geniuses and hyper patriots like yourself that can ask the right questions. And I want to just repeat this. I hope you find counterparts at Cornell, yes, Dartmouth, Blake, but I'm sure they're not as bad. Columbia. There should be Doges of every single major Ivy League school, every school in the country. And boy, I hope Brown, metaphorically, has to be, let's just say, go through a transformational process. I'll be kinder. Alex, thanks so much. God bless you, man. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. First and foremost, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell. It really helps us out, and we love it when you leave comments. Share these videos with your friends. Also, get involved with Turning Point USA at tpusa.com. We have our Student Action Summit coming up this summer. We have our Young Women's Leadership Summit. All of the biggest and most amazing events of the summer at tpusa.com. That is tpusa.com. Again, hit subscribe, hit the bell. Thanks for watching.